the biggest sort of buzz around RSA in terms of security technology this year is going to be around machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Answer is that there is hype, but for the most part, both AI and ML are still dependent on humans to tell the good from the bad. And that said, there is a potential to enhance ability to deal with threats much better than we do today. But I think that one of the indicators that we are seeing things that are somewhat different is the definite increase in the number of startup companies that are focusing on security solutions that are featuring such technology.
And I think that the promise of machine learning and AI is helping organizations make sense of the data overload that they've got.
What should we be doing? Is privacy going the way of the dodo bird?
Who got what data? But it does point out the bigger challenge, which is what's the second-hand use of the data? What's the tertiary use of the data? And it's almost as though we're making a bargain for a one-time use of our personal information for something for our benefit.
This data, and this is something that not too many people think about, at least not on a daily basis, this could be employed to study, to identify implicit relationships, that it leads to insights that deliver a much extended view into our characteristics, into a picture that could be created from our profile.
Fax breach. And it was big for several reasons. Number one, just the sheer volume and the kind of information breached here was extraordinary. And, shocking. We've got another big data breach. This isn't new to 2018 or 2017. This is a broken record that's been playing for many years, and I don't know what it takes for us as an industry to fix it.
Known security vulnerabilities, they represent compelling targets for data attacks. And the growing popularity of open source arguably led to higher security awareness by organizations and by developers, but it also highlighted a need for improved processes and best practices compared to those in that the business typically would employ, at least traditionally. And it compelled enterprises to employ new tools for doing everything. Now, I think that many of those breaches, especially those that we are discussing, they could have been prevented if we're talking about managed open source usage. Detecting the vulnerable open source components can be done best via dedicated tools.
So it is a challenging problem. There's a reason that there are so many attacks now targeting this layer. It's much harder for a development team to kind of take a new component because they just don't know if it's going to change, some functionality that they depend on in the application. So that's the hard part.
Ops real? Can security really work with dev and ops to make everyone's life easier? And is DevSecOps just AppSec with another name?
Now the challenge remains, despite efforts to reduce as much as possible any aspects that concern to security, and that is to introduce appropriate security design and implementation, especially best practices throughout what is an agile life cycle after all. Now, this is not easy, and it is not easily effective. Part of it has to do with the fact that security is not a mere feature, and people need to be reminded about that time and again. It merits special attention.
The challenge that we see is that smaller organizations can move more quickly to embrace those principles across everything that they're doing.